Hey there, and welcome to season 3 of Pause and Rewind. I'm Neil, my pronouns are he, him, and I'm the host and producer of my podcast, which is very much created for everyone. As usual, I'll be chatting to changemakers, thought leaders, and role models who all share a common goal. They're striving to make the world a more inclusive place. And, let's face it, we need it. We'll be diving into the moments, the realisations and relationships in my guest's life that led them to where and who they are now. Because everyone loves an origin story. We'll be talking tales, anecdotes, and a little of what makes our guests tick. This is an 8-episode season going out during Pride season. And Pride really is a celebration of the LGBTQ+ community, but it's first and foremost a protest. Showing up has never been more important, and what we're seeing right now is the fight is definitely not over. Each of these guests has an amazing story when it comes to doing their own thing and how they're showing up in the world. And I'm so excited to shine a spotlight on their stories. So, with that in mind, are you ready to pause and rewind? Hello there, and welcome to this episode of Pause and Rewind. I can't believe how fast this season is flying by. I decided to release 2 months of episodes for Pride season throughout June and July. And yeah, it's going by so fast. There's going to be another 3 episodes left after this, and then I'm going to be taking a break. But for this conversation, I am chatting to someone that I've got to know since last year, and that is Andrew Flewitt. Andrew is a podcaster. He is the voice and the brains behind Queer I Am, which shines a light on queer stories. He is the author of a new book that I am currently holding in my hands, which you can't see. However, the book is called Do You Believe in Life After Loss? Queer Stories of Loss, Hope and Resilience. And I've loved getting to know Andrew. Recently, we've spoken on the We Create Space Unlock book club about the book. I've heard him talk about it online. I've listened to the podcast, his podcast, many seasons of it, but particularly his latest season focuses on those people who he's interviewed for the book. And the book is really taking on this lease of life when it comes to encouraging people to actually talk about loss and the many different forms of loss that exist, because ultimately, as Andrew says during this conversation, we all lose at some point. So I hope that you enjoy this conversation and getting to know Andrew as much as I have. Please, take care of yourself whilst listening. We do cover some, challenging conversations around loss, particularly the loss of loved ones, relationships, and the need to walk away from family dynamics sometimes, something that really resonated with me. But yeah, here's the conversation. Let me know what you think. Cheers. Hey Andrew, welcome to Pause and Rewind. It is brilliant to have you here and to have you on the other side of the mic.
I'm so looking forward to this. I've been following your podcast for ages now, and this is definitely one that I wanted to record. So yeah, super happy to be here. So thank you.
I am super happy to have you here, and particularly at such an exciting time for you and this is an audio podcast, so people won't be able to see it, but I am waving your very colourful,
Yeah.
beautiful book around. Do you believe in life after loss? Queer stories of loss, hope, and resilience. I finished it. Wow. How are you feeling knowing that this is in someone's hands and it's out there?
Well, thank you for reading it, first of all. And you read that quickly. So
Did
5 stars, 5 gold stars to you. That's amazing.
the joys of ADHD.
Is it like focus time?
Yeah.
Really, this is my task. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really exciting. And it's also a little bit like, has this really happened? Because obviously it has. And I think the thing is with creativity, and we've talked about this before, you work up to something for such a long period of time. So, the book has been kind of 2 years of work, but actually when I actually did the writing element and knew I had the deal and wanted to write it and started that process, that was like 3 or 4 months. But actually the editing and everything else that follows was almost a year. And then you do the promotion, it comes out, and then your launch, and you're seeing all these copies of this book, and you think, wow, this is now in the public domain for people to buy, to like, to not like, to judge, to love. Everything is out there. So it's really amazing. But also kind of, yeah, I'm kind of still doing normal stuff like, going doing my day job, putting on a wash, doing the housework. It's like it kind of I have moments where I go, oh, that happened, and then I have moments where I'm doing normal life. So it's balance, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And my first big question is always what does the world look like for like Andrew Flewitt right now, to get a feel of that. And I'd love to know what that balance of this amazing thing being out there, this creation, this dream, this
Mm.
a culmination of so much work, and then fitting all of the responses and the admiration and the appreciation into that normal life. How does that feel?
It's amazing. I mean, the actual launch that I had on the 21st, which was the day the book came out in Brighton, was so wonderful. It was a room full of lots of people that I knew, but some that I kind of seen in passing or don't have a relationship with, but they came and heard me speak. And I was interviewed by SJ Watson, he's an author. So that was really amazing. And, we're good friends. So I felt very safe in that environment to be interviewed by him. And it was just a very wholesome experience. And then after the event, I kind of received messages from people saying, I really enjoyed the evening. I've started reading the book. I'm really loving it. Thank you so much. And all this kind of stuff. So it's really humbling and lovely. And I think this is, just one of those things that, like, I never dreamed of being an author. And I know that probably will infuriate people that have always had a dream to be an author. But it wasn't something that was ever really in my kind of vision of, I'm going to achieve this or I want to achieve this. It was just that as I got older and started to read lots of queer books and lots of non-fiction books, I felt like I had something to add to the conversation and I wanted to add something to the conversation. And that kind of started with my podcast. And then, I started to write and found that the process of it was really enjoyable. I loved kind of putting my thoughts down on paper and then trying to make it look and feel like something that someone would enjoy and would take something from. So when, everything kind of went down the pan in 2023 and life kind of happened, this idea for this book came out and it was the most natural thing for me to kind of do. So I've kind of been in it for a couple of years and now to have people, read it, send nice messages, ask me to sign it when they see me, that's really, really lovely. So I feel very, very privileged. And very excited and very proud as well. And I'm proud of all of the people that, contributed to the book and told their stories to me because without their stories, the book wouldn't exist. It is what it is today because of all those amazing conversations that I was lucky to have.
You are, like me, someone that really values and nurtures relationships. You hear it on your podcast, you hear it in the book and the actions from the book. So I really I have a real admiration and respect for the way that you do that as well, as
Oh,
someone that
thank
is really
you.
passionate about that. You talk a lot about loss, obviously, naturally,
Mm.
it's the
Yeah.
book. Having gone through those periods of loss that you speak about very publicly and in the book with family, relationships, your previous experience, does it feel that there's been an element of being able to let it go?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Excuse me. I think there does. I think, it was a very cathartic experience to write the book. And before I even the book became what it is, I just started writing. So in January 2023, my dad passed away and I was off work and I took myself to Gales in Hove. I live in Brighton and I was in Hove at the time. So the most expensive cafe there is, it's about £17 for a muffin or whatever. But I went in there every day, had a coffee, and took my laptop and I listened to the Sugar Babes, the Lost Tapes on repeat. So this is the album that came out in end of 2021. And there were so many songs on the album that was just saying everything that I needed to say at that
Mm.
moment. And I just started writing and I started writing everything down that I was feeling. And it was just one of those things where I just thought I need to turn what's going on in my head into creativity. And I think that's kind of my default now. I'm always thinking about how to process what's kind of going on in here onto paper or onto, use my voice or making the podcast or whatever. And I think it was just one of those situations where I needed to write. I needed to get out what
Mm.
was in my body because there was a lot of pain and a lot of sadness. You know, losing a parent is a tough thing, but at the same time, I decided to walk away from members of my biological family because the relationships just weren't working anymore and they hadn't been working for a long time. But I think what we do in life is we kind of make excuses or we carry on this dynamic because we should, because it's family, because it's, you know, blood's thick in the water, all those things you kind of hear when you're growing up. and and also what I've come to realize through the whole process of talking about this and writing the book is that sometimes it's really unhealthy for the other people if you stay as well. So, you know, I have my own opinion and feelings about that whole relationship dynamic, but I'm also responsible for my own actions and I contribute towards that as well. And the very act of being there sometimes, you know, even if you're silent or you're not saying anything, you're still contributing to the dynamic that's kind of out there. So I think it was just healthy for me and for everyone that I kind of walked away. People will have different opinions on that. That's
Yeah.
fine. But that's my kind of realization. And then a few months later, my husband and I separated. So everything I kind of knew in terms of family stability, home life, you know, what had been played out for such a long period of time came to an end. And I was kind of alone with my thoughts. And I went out one night and I had a couple of drinks and I got home. And the next morning, I started thinking about what happens after we lose. And the title, Do You Believe in Life After Loss, just popped in my head. And I've said this in every interview, but I think it's quite funny. I don't know whether it's because Cher was on the night before and it was in my head, or because I was probably in a gay pub or something in Brighton, or it was just, you know, is there life after loss? But it really
Yeah.
stuck with me. And it's about 2 years ago, yeah, to the kind of this week that I made that decision to write it. So it's kind of crazy to be 2 years later talking about it and it's actually out there and people can
And
buy
it's
it.
here. And it's here.
Yeah.
Well, just I'm not going to talk about the title too much, but I
Mm.
cannot say the title without hearing Cher in my head, as I said to you last week when I saw you.
Yeah.
And I was really annoyed that I didn't have my copy with me to sign and get a picture of you with. So next time I see you, I'm going to be bringing it.
We were talking about that yesterday. Sorry to interrupt, but I saw Luciana yesterday, who you know, and we were at the event on, which was amazing that you emceed. It was an incredible evening, and Luciana said to me yesterday, "I can't believe Neil thought you might have a copy of it in your book in your bag." And I was like, "Yeah, can you imagine if I just carried these books around me? Like it's really gone to my head. Like look everyone, here are my books. And then I could pull out like a chip and pin machine and be like, who wants to buy one? And let's start selling them." But
Just going to pull you up there, and we were talking just before we jumped on about a book called "Fuck Being Humble," and
I.
I'm gonna throw that right at you in this moment. Put a couple of copies in your bag.
I should do it. I should. Yeah.
Hard relate on the family. You know, I made a
Mm,
really difficult decision to walk away from my mum after a really, really tumultuous relationship for my whole life.
mm,
And it's better all round. You're right.
mm,
It's better all round for all of us. And there were times when we could make it work and we, came back together. But ultimately it was just toxic.
mm,
She's very toxic. You chose not to write about them in the book
mm,
and go into detail. And I was really curious as to, I know that because they have their, I know you spoke about it
mm.
before, that they have their perspectives. Were you tempted to not so much like dish all the dirt in a gritty way, but
Yeah.
were you tempted to kind of use it as an opportunity to offload and set the record straight? Did you not feel the need to?
So I absolutely did write, and that's kind of in a draft book. So everything that I was feeling, I think it was really important to get that out. Um, when you write a book like this, if someone is still alive, so if someone's passed, and my dad has passed, and I write about him in the book. If someone has passed, you can write about them without permission. If someone is still living and you start writing about that person and your experiences and that kind of thing, there's risk around defamation of character.
Okay.
So legally, it's very difficult to do that. But however, that aside, what I found as I went through the process was that I wanted the book to be more about the people in it. And my story is an important part of it. And I do feel like I talk about my story a lot. You know, could I have talked about it more? Potentially. And, maybe I will in the future. Who knows? If I start writing in a different way, maybe things will naturally come out in another book. But I kind of felt like, and even November last year, I was doing final edits and I wrote a page of feelings and reflections on loss. And when I was writing it, it was one day in Brighton. I was in this cafe that I used to go to all the time. And I remember feeling it was a day I was really cross and I was really, and there was a lot of kind of things in there that the people that I would be referring to would know that I was talking about them.
Okay.
And it felt when I think it comes with healing with time, but it felt like I don't want to do that. I don't want to give anyone any ammunition. And also, I don't want this book to be about them. I want this book to be about me and all the incredible people that I've interviewed. Because to have that on my conscience and in the book, it would take away the essence of how amazing everything else is within it,
Yeah.
because I would be kind of thinking about it. So I think it was more powerful to not, in a way. And also, I don't want to hurt anyone. I've
Yeah.
said this a lot as well. Everyone has their own version of events and their own story. You know, relationships can work. There's relationships that I've walked away from that have worked and served a purpose and have definitely been things that, there's moments in those relationships that I will cherish and that I think about and I smile about. And it's a hard thing to do. And also you don't just walk away and forget about it. Like, I think you then grieve what you thought you had or what you thought, was the dynamic. And then when you realize that actually you've just been hopeful that it would get
Mm.
better or that things would change, but it doesn't mean that it was all bad, but it was enough to be able to say, okay, this isn't good for me. And
Or them, as you
or
said.
them, or them.
Yeah.
And you have to think about your mental health and I'm in a happy place now. I
Yeah.
feel good. But I still sometimes think about everything, but I feel like that's less and less now as well. And it's interesting you said earlier about, was it about the emotions and everything of writing. I found as the book was coming out, like, music is a really big thing for me. I don't know if it relates to you,
Same,
but
same,
I
same.
listen to a song and I will just go back to a moment. And I remember I created like a playlist of all the songs that maybe have got me through over the years when I've dealt with loss or dealt with difficult situations. And there's a few songs that remind me of my friend and remind me of my dad. And the week before it was kind of happening, I sat on the beach with my lovely friend Morgan and we were having fish and chips in Brighton. And I was talking about this and I was saying that there was a song in particular that I listened to, and I was kind of I was coming back from Florence, I was on the plane and I was holding my hand and I could see my friend's hand. Like, I still remember what her hand and her nails and her rings and everything looked like. And I felt like I was visualizing that she was there holding my hand through this music. And it's
Mm.
like, you know, we never, we lose, but there's ways of keeping people in our hearts and in our minds and how we feel, whether that's music or through remembering or writing or creating or whatever. So I don't know, there's lots to be thankful for as well as the heartbreak, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I do think the book tackles loss in a really beautiful, almost a journey. And
Mm,
for me, reading every single story, and although our experiences of loss will be very different, I related to something in every single story throughout
mm,
this book, and the way that you crafted the conversations and held the people that you were talking to through the conversations, and you
mm,
had your structured questions that you kind of asked everyone, but
yeah,
you also had the questions that brought the person's story to life.
yeah.
But I was really surprised the fact that there was something that resonated through every single chapter of the book.
I think it's because it's human connection. This is
Yeah,
what I've said a lot. Even if you're not queer or identify in our community, if you read this book, everyone loses in life. If you
yeah,
love, you will lose. And it's, no one can escape it. And that's the kind of the scary thing, isn't it? And it's the thing that we don't talk about enough. And I feel quite passionate about that now. It's like, when I was young, I didn't really have the tools to understand loss. And then when I lost a friend in my 20s, I was so unequipped to deal with it that I was in this grief for such a long period of time. And I think if maybe I had creativity and I had more awareness that I have now, I probably would have handled that situation differently. Um, but we all lose and we all go through difficult things. And I think it's just that realization that on a human level, we have to kind of speak about it. We have to connect. and we have to allow that opportunity for people to speak, openly about loss. And I think that's why people will connect with all the different stories.
Yeah.
I don't identify with all of the stories, but I definitely walked away from all of them just feeling completely privileged, but also
Yeah.
my mind was blown sometimes. I was like, wow, like that was just so
Yeah.
inspiring. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think I
Sometimes
understand that.
Yeah, sometimes it was just a few words that resonated, and
Mm,
I think it was just the feeling. The book creates a space in which it's okay to feel pain. It's
yeah,
okay to understand that actually, I really understand why that person walked away.
yeah,
I would walk away in that same position.
yeah.
Um, your chapter with Theo,
Hmm.
absolutely beautiful,
Oh,
and it was a standout for me. And I was thinking about this in terms of relationships. You don't hear people talk about this relationships when there's
mm,
been a separation and then a coming back together. It was so original,
mm,
and brilliant,
mm,
genius even.
mm.
And was there a deliberate order for the chapters?
Um, was there a deliberate
In
order?
terms of in terms of the either the people or the themes, in terms of the punchiness, because you start with Juno, you
Yeah,
finish with you and Theo. It's this pow pow, but
yeah,
that doesn't
yeah.
detract from any of the other stories in the middle. They're not any lesser because of those bookend two.
I get what you mean.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think they're probably when we looked at the structure, we were like, okay, well, that one would fit, really,
right.
Juno's would fit really well at the beginning, and I think you kind of look at the different stories and think, well, okay, how would these kind of work together? But I do think, I think Theo was the last person that I interviewed, and I think it was consciously or unconsciously right to have it there because it then
Mm,
goes into reflections of loss. And I guess that is part of my story as well. So we get to talk about, it's like we're interviewing each other in a kind of way about
yeah,
it. And then it naturally goes into the reflections of loss. So I think that was definitely in the right place. But, um, I'm really proud of us for doing that. And we've been together 20 years this year. We've been through a lot, and it's, as I said, we lose in life, and life is tough. I was 21 when I met Theo, and he was 23, and we're now in our
mm,
40s, and it's a real privilege to be able to think that we've kind of shared all those experiences. And
yeah,
the one thing that I would say through all of that is that we never stopped loving each other, and we never stopped being friends. And I think we always respected each other. And it was just that it needed to have a break. We needed to have
yeah,
that natural break, and it was really tough. And I remember saying to Theo at one point, do we have to do this? And he was like, yeah, we need to have a break. And I need a break. We need a break. And I'm thankful for that. I think it was really brave of him to be firm on that decision, because it'd been really easy to say, okay, let's try and make it work again or whatever.
yeah,
Um, and then when it came to the book, we didn't know whether we were going to get back together or not, but we knew that actually that was the right conversation to have. It would almost be like and breaks my heart to think about it, but almost like a loving goodbye or
yeah.
a way to move forward. And I'm so lucky it was the latter, because I'm really grateful that it was the latter, because we've now been able to build a life which is new. It kind of everything had to break down for it to be reborn, and it
Yeah.
sounds probably really cheesy, but it's true. We just needed to kind of let it all go and go, right, how do we now move forward and start a new chapter? So yeah.
It's brilliant. There was such a tenderness in the conversation,
Mm,
but also very raw and very
mm,
real. And even the point of like, maybe this won't last forever. Even to be able to be like that with someone in such a way shows how comfortable you are and prepared you are to. You're throwing it all in now, but
yeah.
you don't know. The reality is we don't know what we might lose in the future.
Well, the reality is we will lose, and that's
For
the
sure,
scary thing.
in
Like
some way or another.
we will have to say goodbye to each other one day, and that's heartbreaking. It doesn't mean that I'm, cold about it, or actually I'm at a point now where I'm like completely okay with that. Like if something happened to me, well, obviously I wouldn't know about it, but if something happened to him, or
Yeah,
that happened, my God, it would be devastating. Going through that separation was one of the most difficult things. If I think about everything that happened that year, that was, not, be careful here. Grief doesn't have a pecking order, but it's like,
yeah,
when you've been with someone and you've lived with them for 18 years at that point and you've spent every day together and you've shared all those moments and those milestones, when that goes, it's like, who the fuck am I? And how do I now move on? And how does this all kind of work? So that was a really, really tough thing to do. It was a empowering thing on one hand because it was like, well, rediscovering who you are, but then it was incredibly lonely, and it was all of these things were kind of happening. But yeah, that will happen one day. We will hopefully be very old and grey, and it will happen at the right time. But no one can predict anything in life, can they?
No.
But it doesn't mean I'm okay with that. It just, facing the reality, I think, is a powerful thing sometimes because
Yeah.
you enjoy the moment a bit more.
Absolutely. It's powerful, it's painful, it's
Mm,
sad, it's nuanced. There's so
mm,
much that comes with it, but you're
mm.
you're right. There's a need to be for people to start having some more real conversations
Yeah.
around this.
Mm.
And listening to other people's experiences, because I think what you do is what I try to do with my podcast, with you with Queer I Am and me with Pause and Rewind, is find that is showcase that relatability and that
Mm.
resonance for people, and make it okay.
Yeah.
It's okay if you're experiencing that. This other person is experiencing it, and that
Yeah.
transcends identity, gender, sexuality, all of those things. We all have
Absolutely.
these beautiful, painful, real experiences.
Yeah, definitely. And there's people in my life that have all gone through. I've got two best friends who I've been friends with for over 20 years, and we've seen each other through marriages, death, children being born, all sorts. And it's like life happens, and it's, I don't know, it's a privilege, even in the darkest times, to be there with the people you love or to be there for the people you love. It's a privilege. I remember, you know, um, losing a family member a few years ago, and we were all there at the end, and it was like, this is a privilege, to see someone on their journey. It's a really difficult thing to deal with, but of course it's going to be difficult because that's never going to be easy. But when you can be there and surround yourself with those people, and you know that you're part of this group of people that are there for the same purpose, and you all love each other and want to support each other, and there's power in that. There's power in people coming together. So I feel like we do need to talk about loss a lot more, just to be better equipped with it as well, especially like kids and like teenagers and stuff. It's, the world's a bit of a scary place, and it just, I don't know, the realities of life sometimes I think can shock people because they're not prepared. And yeah, I just think it's a conversation that we need to have more of. One of the
I'm
many
really
conversations.
Yeah, well, yes, exactly, with the world right now.
Yeah.
But I really, really, really hope that this does strike up some conversations for people, and the many different ways that loss shows up in people's lives, because it does people take people on a journey, and each
Mm,
story is just so beautifully pulled
thank you.
together. So I really, really loved reading it, and I'm so
Thank
glad I
you,
got
Neil.
to get it in time for this podcast. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I could talk about the book all day, but
Mm,
actually, I really want to dive into your origin story as well. So, with
okay.
that, are you ready to pause and rewind?
Yes, I am.
Here we go. Let's do this. Take me back. Tell me all about little Andrew.
Oh my God. So little Andrew was a massive Tina Turner fan.
Yes.
I'm not 6 years old. I'm not joking. Um, really intrigued by, was always different. I always wanted to like play with my friends' dolls or wear nail varnish or be eccentric and that kind of stuff. I guess, you learn that maybe that's not okay when you're young. But that's kind of the stuff that I always gravitated towards. I had siblings and I had, family that all lived quite close. I was a really slow eater.
Okay.
Always ate my food really slow. Now that's not a problem. Um, and I think I was a bit of a dreamer when I was really young. I think I just always, like, I remember watching Tina Turner and just dreaming and thinking, oh my God, I want to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. The performing side of it.
Yeah, definitely. And I never really did it. And I think then you go into like high school and you've got all those kind of options with drama and acting and all that kind of stuff. And the aim then was to make people laugh and be liked because, insecure, teenager, feeling different, feeling othered, all that without, not really knowing why you feel that way, but seeking approval was probably something that happened from a very, very young age with me. Um, and then, yeah, so I probably just didn't apply myself very well at school or care enough to really try and do the stuff that I loved. It was more about kind of approval and being liked and yeah, that kind of stuff really. But I had good group of friends around, a good group of friends around me. Yeah, I don't know really. If God, it's really weird talking about it, isn't it? Because my life now, being 40 now, is so different to my
Yeah.
life, and even like where I grew up, and I don't live there anymore. It feels like a different person.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But it sounds like you and many people on here will talk about the fact that they feel like they've come back to that little person in a way because they've given themselves permission to do that.
yeah,
Through when we go through that, whether it's policing or seeking approval
mm,
and validation from other people, we do lose ourselves, right? And
yeah,
so I wonder, I see you now when you're busting out really bold, colorful nails and that match the book cover, by the way, peeps,
yeah,
and your love of queer lifestyle and people and
mm,
amplifying queer voices. So I
mm.
wonder if you feel that you've been able to come back to Little Andrew a little bit over the years.
Yeah. I probably have, and I probably feel over the last couple of years, I feel like the biggest thing that I learned through everything was how to have my own back and be my own friend.
Mm.
And so I probably not actively thought about coming back to the little version of me, but I think in my own way, I've started to look after me a bit better.
Yeah,
And that's by making choices and, living in this city and, surrounding myself with good people and being unapologetic about who I am. Like for me, I've talked about this a lot, but queerness is a superpower. And it's something that I felt so ashamed of for such a long time, and it's people often have those moments where they talk about, feeling different at school and coming out and that kind of stuff. And I think when I think back to it now, like I was always attracted to guys and, but I was bullied such a lot when I was a teenager that I never even allowed myself to even think of it as a possibility.
yeah,
And I think it was as I got older and then, came out at 19, that's when I started to really understand more about myself. But even at that time, you know, there's no rule book. There's no like, okay, now you've come out, this is how you live your life. It was like, well, what next? How do I be this person? Who is this person? What does that mean? So then you become very influenced by other people and you become the caricature in the office, the camp one, the gay one,
yes,
the whatever. And then I met Theo at 21, and then we formed a life together in kind of like my early adult years. So I think the last couple of years has been the first time that I've really got to understand who I am and actually what that means to me. And that's still happening, probably.
yeah,
But that's actually really exciting because I feel like through creativity, through, making art and writing and all that kind of stuff, it's like there's I don't know, an opportunity to dig deep into yourself and go, well, who am I and what does this mean and how can I put this out into the world in a different way? And I hope that I never stop evolving into the next version because I think that's
yeah.
really important to do. Um,
And yeah, and maybe tapping back into a version that might have existed had you,
mm,
and you talk actually in the book, particularly in yours and Theo's chapter around that having quite a heteronormative life in early
yeah.
20s and pursuing that and because you didn't know any different. So this whole allowing yourself space to be creative and such is a way of giving yourself permission to rewind a little bit as
Mm,
well. And
mm.
that's certainly how I see it. And queer time theory fascinates me in the sense of we age differently and different rules apply. And I'm fucking here for all of it.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree. I think
Give
it's
it to me.
that blending is like something that I didn't even know I was doing. It was like how I think a lot of it as well was kind of all you know. So it's like a whole thing around, what you can't be, what you can't see, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it was just like it's probably why I went a bit crazy when I moved to Brighton and was out all the time because it was like, wow, I can go and see Drag on a Tuesday night and drink gin and
Anytime.
tonic. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I went mental. I remember going home this summer after I moved here, and my dad was like, "Oh, you're getting a bit of a beer tummy." And I was like, "No, I'm not." And I look back at pictures like now, and there's nothing wrong with putting on weight, but I look back at pictures and I think, God, I was drinking a lot of gin and going out loads and stuff like that. I probably wasn't looking after myself in the best way. Um,
But you
but
didn't do it back then. So,
this is it. It was
yeah.
almost like, I think, and my nephew says to me, "Do you think you had a midlife crisis?" And I'm like, I don't know whether it was a midlife crisis or a second adolescence. I'm not really
Also, don't be
sure.
so rude.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, he's a sweetheart. But it's, yeah, he's the way he was like, "Do you think it was a bit like that?" I was like, possibly. I don't know. But it was like wow, like all of this has
Yeah.
opened up to us. And I think now there's balance, which is really
Yeah.
good. But yeah, I just God, I fucking love being queer. I
Yeah.
would not
So,
trade my life for anyone's, and I can say that without any apology or without any second guessing of myself as well. And I think
yeah.
that for me it makes me emotional. It's like that's how proud I am. That's
Yeah.
how far I've come. I love it.
Yeah.
There was no one else I would want to be. I'm very happy to be this person. So
That's beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. And again,
yeah,
fuck being humble.
yeah,
I want to
yeah.
dial it back. Yeah, there's always like a little tattoo or a slogan that comes out of these episodes, and like, that's it.
Should we go
I
and get
need
it
to
together? Fuck being humble. Well,
absolutely
let's
let's
do
do
it.
it. Let's do it. I want to dial it back a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, like tapping into that unapologetic queer self. And I want to ask if what is your favorite anecdote you've heard about little Andrew?
Oh my God.
Because you tell a beautiful story around Tina Turner in the book, so I
Yeah.
don't want to give too much away about that. But what is your favorite anecdote that you've heard about yourself growing up?
That's a really hard question to answer. And the reason being is because I I don't know, like I don't think I've had that many conversations like
Mm,
that. I
yeah,
think, and that's not like a woe is me type story, but I think it's just that hasn't really happened. Um, I think going back to Tina, one of my earliest memories of being a kid and knowing that she was coming to our hometown and she was doing a concert. My dad was going and everyone was going. I remember people like going to see this superstar and I was like, what is going on? And I remember I was 5. It was the day before my 6th birthday. And it's one of my earliest memories. And I was wearing a nautical striped top. And I don't know, that is one of my, I'm not joking, it's one of my earliest memories. Um, but I was always like, there's probably been conversations about the fact that I literally didn't stop watching her. And, I would do things like get the broom in the garden and then the hose pipe, and the hose pipe would be the mic wire, and the top would be and we had a staircase in our garden, and she came down on that tour in a staircase, so I would
yeah,
go down the stairs like I was her, and
amazing.
so probably had conversations like that. But I don't know. There's probably not been that many like that, to be honest. So the listener can read into that what they want.
No, I mean I get it, and I look at some. I guess this is probably a separate conversation around childhood and different families, right? And the way that different families share love and affection and
Mm,
such. But I have to say, I probably feel the same. Like I don't really recall that many conversations where we sat down either with my mum when we're on talking terms or my dad who I get on with and
mm,
love my dad to bits, but we just don't have that affection relationship where we reflect. Where we
mm,
might look at pictures together. I don't have that. And my nan,
mm,
who I was really close to, is been gone over half my life now. So
mm.
I don't really have that with people either. So I love hearing other people's, but it hits me that that is a common experience that we share.
Yeah, I think I don't know. It's no one's fault. I think it's just I don't know. I think it was just an interesting dynamic growing up, and I was on one hand I was really really lucky. Like we always had really good home cooked meals. We always had nice clothes. We had holidays. My parents worked, sometimes 3
Mm,
jobs to make money so we could go abroad as kids. We were really lucky in that respect. Um, but those kind of conversations, I just don't think they probably didn't like happen. And
yeah.
but I also don't feel like I missed out from that. It's just just wasn't our dynamic.
Fair.
One thing I tell you, I don't think did just pop in my head is so I still speak to my sister, and we speak every week, and that's lovely. And she says that there was so maybe this is what I know is that I was a bit kind of out there and would do things and be in my own little world. But apparently we were going down we were going in British Home Stores in Ipswich, and apparently I'm going down the escalator and I'm waving to everyone like the Queen and going, "Hello, my royal subjects," at like the age of like
Oh
7 or
my God.
something. Yeah, and she tells that story and she's laughing when she says it. So, and again, I don't really remember that, but it was like I probably was a bit like showy offy and you know, would do stuff like that to maybe get attention because I was
Yeah.
like, just like me, great, always all that kind of stuff. Everyone pay attention to me because I wanted to be seen or whatever. So I don't doubt that probably did happen, but yeah, that's one of her memories, I think.
Brilliant memory,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. And same for me, like I said, same for me. Not so many anecdotes, got memories, and I always remember just like, just on the horrible side of it, being told what a little shit I was and how difficult I was, and I was like,
yeah,
no one wants to really hear that about
yeah.
themselves.
I heard that a lot as well. Like, oh, he's a
Yeah,
pain, or
yeah,
oh, you should live with him, or whatever, and you'd be like, I don't get it. Yeah, I
yeah,
don't know, I
yeah,
don't know, I don't know.
yeah. Um, Teenage years, then lots of
Yeah.
bullying again,
Hmm.
common for many of us in the community.
Yeah.
What was going on in your head at that time? How did you feel about the world?
I think well, so Tina moved on to the Spice Girls.
Love,
Let's put that out
obviously.
there. So I became like the sixth member.
Who
And
was your favorite?
it changed over time. So I really liked Baby Spice when they first came out. I don't know why, but I did. But then I remember hearing Mel C sing live at Wembley on the VHS that I watched that had been recorded from Sky. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I love her voice. And then I've just been the biggest Melanie C fan ever since
She's
that moment.
incredible.
Love her. Um, so I was probably like teenager at school, survival mode, group of friends, always with the girls. There was me and another guy. He was gay as well. So we had kind of that schooling dynamic kind of going on. Schooling, I don't know if that's a word, but that dynamic. And then home life was kind of like, I don't know, typical teenager, like fighting with my brother, um, you know, set routines, whatever. Then I had the Spice Girls version of me that would be in my bedroom or watching Spice Girls, kind of like dreaming about being a pop star. And then, like, I started to find different relationships outside of my family as well. So I was really close with my neighbors and their daughter, and my childhood friend had a child, and so I kind of became like friends with them, and I would see them quite a lot. And so as I kind of from like 15 onwards, I probably started to develop different relationships as well, and started to kind of, and also I worked from the age of 14, which is really bad, but I got
Same.
like a job. And so I was earning like £200 a month, like at 14, 15, in like the year 99 or whatever, illegally to like, and I'd be like buying cigarettes and like going down the park with my friends, and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of had like this adult life in, I don't know, like from my later teens.
Yeah.
And then I left school and just started to work. I tried to go to college and I was like, this isn't for me. I wanted the thought of going to sixth form, like school felt like really, really traumatic actually. And
Mm,
I avoided, like, I remember sitting there counting down the days in the bar thinking, oh my God, it's 80 days, 80 school days left until I get to leave.
yeah.
The thought of going to sixth form, and I remember having a dream once of repeating my last year and waking up thinking, oh my God, God, that doesn't have to
Yeah.
happen. So I then started working, and then I was working in an office at like 17. I was working for an
Oh.
insurance broker, and yeah, so I
What
just
was the goal? What did you, obviously kind of dreams, apart from being a six Spice Girl, kind of
yeah.
what was the, I want to be this when I grow up thought process?
I don't know. I think I was just, do you know what? My family always had a really good work ethic, and it was like
Mm,
that was drummed into us. Like you have to work and you have to earn your money, and you've got to kind of. I think I just kind of became independent, and I think also what the goal at that point as well was probably, can I save money to eventually then get my own place so I can move out of home? I don't know whether that was because I then could be more independent, or because eventually I would then come out, or I don't really know. I wasn't thinking about that, but also those later years, even when I went to work, I had homophobia in the office. I was
Right.
very aware of my difference, even though I wasn't really accepting it or out. And I was just kind of then, yeah, just kind of blend as much as you can. I think that's where blend came from school, young
Yeah.
adult, and then coming out, meeting Theo, blend, 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 just try and fit in. And now I don't want to blend in the
No,
slightest.
no, no.
But
And it shows, babe. It shows.
I don't know if there
Only
was a particular goal. I think it was just, yeah, earn money,
yeah,
eventually get your own place, independence, and see
yeah.
what happens. Maybe I'll become a pop star. I don't know.
And growing and being queer somewhere regional like Suffolk, having come
Mm,
from Essex myself,
yeah.
back then was so hard.
Mm. There's no
Like
visibility.
horrendous. None.
Yeah, I mean, I knew of some gay people that extended family members, and also like a family friend's uncle. So I always had people in my life. There was always diversity in my life. Like
Mm,
my childhood friends were from a mixed race family. Their uncle was gay. It was like I never questioned any of that. It was always just like the norm. And I feel really privileged for that as well, because like some people don't grow up with that sense of
yeah,
diversity. But for me, it was just like cool. Like it never even entered my mind as, you know, being unique in some kind of way. And it probably is when I think about it now. Like not many families growing up in the 90s or in times before or whatever would have had access to that diversity as a kid or a teenager.
yeah.
Um, so I did, and I think I don't know where I'm going with this. What was your question?
I
Sorry.
was just saying how growing up somewhere regional like,
Yes.
Suffolk, Essex for me, being a queer kid was just really hard and also carrying that with you, whether it's school, sixth form, college, early days in the workplace, in the workforce.
Yeah, completely. So I kind of had that visibility, but then in terms of like being someone like me, being 17, 18, 19,
Mm,
out, accepting, open, and then when I did kind of find it, like I remember working with someone in an office and he was gay, but I'm straight acting. And
mm,
that was the thing. And I was
right.
like, so I learn when you come out, oh, the desire is to be straight acting. You can't,
Yes.
and to be a top and to be all these things that I didn't even have any experience of.
Yeah.
But that was like the narrative that was being set from someone inside the community. It was like, oh, no, no, no,
Yeah.
don't be, can't be, you'll then be more attractive to these men and all this kind of stuff. And I just never fitted in. I think that's what
Yeah.
I kind of felt really. I never really fitted in. So then when I met Theo and there was someone who loved me unapologetically and opened up their arms and wanted to be with me, it was like I've hit the jackpot. I found my person. I think is what
Yeah.
that was probably what I was searching for most of my life, was to
Yeah.
find that relationship, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Funny how fast forward, you know, over 20 years, and that's
Mm,
still a narrative about needing to be straight acting and not
mm,
and needing to look a certain way to fit in because, I don't think I ever really fit in on a typical gay scene in terms of the way I look, in terms of the way I acted, in terms of how I just show up in the world. I still don't
mm,
in gay in a lot of gay environments.
mm. Yeah, I think. Yeah, and I can relate to that as well. Even when I moved to Brighton, I kind of experimented with makeup and the way I dressed and that kind of stuff. And I'd go into like gay bars and I would be sticking out even
Same.
then.
Still, it still happens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and questioned as well. Like, are you wearing lip gloss or whatever? And I'd be like, yeah, I am. But it was like, and then I felt like a bit defensive about it. I was like, well, come on, we're in the queer scene in Brighton. Surely
Yeah.
there's this. We're all supporting each other, and that's the sad thing as well. I think is like we people stick to what they know, and not everyone is open or as comfortable with themselves. Like I think back to the friend that I had years ago who told me that straight acting was to be really important, and that was because he was going through his own stuff. Like
Yeah.
everyone's got their journey,
For sure.
but you know, you. I think I don't want to blend. I don't want to just be like everyone else. And I think it can fluctuate as well. There's some times where I really want to stick out and sometimes where I'm just kind of cool going with the flow as well. And it's just, I think there's room for all of it. Like,
Yes.
there's no one way of kind of being. And I'm glad for that because it would be a bit boring if not, wouldn't it?
And hard work sometimes as well if you're constantly
Yeah,
having to be on your A game and
yeah.
to put on a show. I don't have
Filtering or
time for it.
blending is exhausting.
Yeah,
It's like, hiding who you are I think it's really, really
yeah,
exhausting. And it's
yeah,
like you being open and out is a freeing experience. I think it's
yes,
very difficult, but it can be really
yeah.
freeing.
Yeah, but also I think it's and again, side conversation probably, but being visible also comes at a cost. With
Mm,
doing what you do with the podcast, what I do in my podcast, and in the nature of showing up as a queer person, sometimes it comes at a cost, whether that is exhaustion,
yeah,
burnout, sometimes a compromise of safety. It
yeah.
also comes at a cost in being yourself and being free to do that.
Yeah, and also I think it's the question is then, well, who are you to have that opinion or what
Mm,
what I remember going to a pub a few years ago. Actually, it really sticks out to me, and um there was this argument, and it's, oh god, it's really like ridiculous to talk about, but it really stuck with me because it was just so ridiculous, and so I couldn't understand why the people involved in this argument didn't understand where I was coming from, and just they almost created this drama, but used queer as like a retaliation. So it was like I was in a gay pub, and someone made a remark which I deemed as racist, and I was like, I don't think that's okay. This was like a lock-in. I was like,
mm.
that's not okay to say that. And then this other person said, why is it not okay? Why? So because you say it's not okay, then it's not okay. And it was almost like a kind of like, oh well, Andrew's here. How dare we all speak or have an opinion or whatever? And this thing that this person said was horrible. It was racist, and it was like, I don't want to be in that conversation. And if you're going to ask me whether I think it's offensive, I'm going to tell you that it
Yeah.
is. And then he was like, well, I don't like the word queer. And then he went on this whole kind of
Oh,
like,
wow.
kind of soapbox moment around queer and how it's awful. And the thing is, some people really struggle with that word. I completely get that. And it's not for everyone, and each to their own. But it was almost like used as like a retaliated like weapon to me,
Yeah.
like, oh, how dare you have an opinion when you use this word or
Yeah.
something. And I don't know, it's like sometimes people just don't want to support or don't like what you have to say, or they've got their own stuff going on. So, they'll make a fuss in this kind of way and, expect you to blend or conform or whatever. And I just think we have to know who we are and keep doing what we do and, get comfortable and behind that.
Yeah.
I think it's really
Yeah.
important.
Take me back to Andrew that started off working life in the insurance industry then, doing insurance, because you're in
Yeah.
HR now, right? You're in
Yes.
HR. Aside from being a podcaster, public speaker, author, darling, you are in HR. What was early career like, and what led you into the HR sector?
So I originally worked in a hotel on the reception when I was 17. That was the year that Big Brother 2 came out. So I was like
Yes.
watching,
Kate
yeah.
Lawler.
No, that was
Oh,
Brian Dowling.
Brian Dowling. Kate
Yeah.
Lawler was number three. Yeah.
Yeah, so I got sent away. This was really cool. This is when I think actually this is when I know I wanted to live by myself. I was sent away to this place in Warwickshire to do my reservations training for the system,
Okay.
and I got to live in this like little house of 5 days with. There was a gay guy from Manchester. There were these women from different areas of the country, and we all went out and had dinner together. And it was the first time I really felt independent. And I remember leaving and feeling so sad that I had to leave, and it was almost like my version of the Big Brother house. Um, but I did that, and then I was earning like £3 an hour or something. It's criminal when you think about it now, but that was like they could pay you what you want. I was 17, and then I got a job at an insurance broker's as like an admin person, and I got a staggering £8,000 a year as my salary. That's in
Hey.
2001, and I used to go to like, I used to go to like, do you remember Littlewoods?
Yeah.
I used to go there and buy all my shirts, and like I'd come back every week with lots of new shirts. I had so many office shirts. It was like I think I quite enjoyed like dressing up in that kind of way. And then I got a job at another insurance company, and I made some lifelong friends, which I still have now. But that version of me was, 17 to 19 was, covered in acne, insecure, feeling awful about myself, um, trying to find out who I was, feeling uncomfortable, hating the way I looked, but I still had like drive and ambition, and I kind of knew that I wanted to like have a job and make more money. And then when I got my other insurance job, there was like promotion opportunities, so I always went for the promotion. And by the age of like, I don't know, 21 or something, I was probably earning about 16 grand a year, which, you know, if I think about that now, obviously my salary is very different now, but at 19, having no responsibilities, having like, £1,200 a month going into your bank, I was like, God, I'm loaded. Like I was
Yeah.
like, and there was an opportunity to go for another promotion. So I went for another promotion and all that kind of stuff. So that kind of all happened. But then in my mid-20s, my best friend passed away, and I hit a really bad bout of depression and anxiety and work. And I have OCD as well. And
Mm.
that exacerbated in that whole time. And I was really, really poorly. And I honestly don't know how I went to work and did my job, because it almost exacerbated the OCD as well. Um, because it was very kind of like methodical and like checking stuff and making stuff, you had certain order of how you do things. And then I'd
Yeah.
become really in my head, and I was like, have I done that right? And worrying, that I'd written awful things on the computer about people that I worked with and all this. So my mind would be kind of going overdrive. So I would then check everything, and then it just got worse and worse and worse. And it's like, I probably should have got a lot more help then than I did. But again, I kept thinking it will get better, it'll get better. But what I learned through that is I'm probably more tenacious than I think I am. I'm more resilient, and I still went to work. I still did all the stuff I needed to
Mm.
do, but it was a really, really, really tough time. And then the company closed, and I was like, right, I want to go into HR. My friends worked in HR. I thought it would be a good career move.
Yeah.
Could do some good work, some interesting work. I could be nosy and see what's going on in the world of the work, see what goes on behind the scenes. And also, I knew there was a good career path. I knew that I could, make a decent salary, and it would be something different. So I think, I was probably chasing like ambition and success and money and a lifestyle maybe at that particular time,
Yeah.
and that worked. It was cool.
And
um
what was the moment then that you found? Because obviously HR is really invested in people and
yeah,
culture. So I wonder, is there a direct correlation between progressing in that area and then finding your voice as the Andrew Flewitt that we know now?
yeah, that happened in 2019 when the company I worked for became a sponsor of Pride in my
Right.
hometown, and I was on the committee, and they asked me if I wanted to do it, and I said absolutely. And I then met all of these amazing people and became really passionate about queer history and pride and why it's important, and realized that it's a privilege to be a part of it, and to blend is not something I want to do. And I think then COVID happened, and I read loads and watched loads of films and documentaries, and then we moved to Brighton, and kind of the rest is history, really. So
Yeah.
it was all, it needed to all happen, I think, in that kind of way. And also, like, in terms of being a creative, I wouldn't have been able to do this, I don't think, in my 20s.
Yeah.
I don't think, things like podcasts and, are so much more accessible now for people, aren't they? To be able to, like, you can
Yeah.
download an app and create and start having conversations, get a cheap mic from Amazon and do it. There was no conversation about that I don't, it's not, as far as I'm aware, in that time in my 20s or whatever. So, and I probably wouldn't have had the life experience or the confidence to be able to pursue it either.
Same.
Um,
And it took a while to find my voice, and
mm,
now you can't shut me up.
that's amazing.
Yeah, but yes, it wasn't accessible, and I was always too drunk. And it's like you find your
Yeah.
voice when you find it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
When the time's right, and then it feels right, doesn't it, as well, and feels authentic completely.
absolutely. And allowing it, as you have done, allowing it to evolve as well
Mm,
into many different forms. Has there been someone who has shaped you the most along the way?
probably Theo.
Yeah,
Complete. Yeah. Because our relationship is, you can't not have a 20-year relationship with someone and not be influence each other and watch each other grow. But he's like my biggest cheerleader.
yeah,
He's the one that kind of, he's so proud, and he's the one that kind of, is there, supporting. And whether that's through conversation or a hug or just even in the moments when it's tough, he's there. You know,
Yeah.
it's someone that's kind of through all of it. He's seen the absolute worst and the absolute best. And I think when you have someone on your side like that, that's really, really
Yeah.
powerful. So yeah,
It's
absolutely.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And seems so fucking wise from his words in
He
the
is.
interview as well. I was like,
He
oh my gosh.
There is a book in him, I think.
Yes.
And he's an amazing human being. He's the kindest person I know. I'm very like, and I mean that sincerely. Like, I feel people say that about their other halves, but he's just there for people, and he creates a really nice environment.
Yeah.
And you know, all my friends would say the same thing that we've got locally. They come around here and he cooks for everyone and creates this really nice environment. And he's on his own journey with creativity as well. You know, he's a qualified yoga instructor, and he's teaching, and he's got some good stuff to say. I would love to see him write a book. I think
Yeah.
it'd be
Okay.
very powerful.
Putting it out there.
Yeah.
Putting it out there. Does happiness and success look and feel how you thought it would, according to whatever definition you might have had to now, however you interpret it?
God, that's a really good question. Happiness is, I think, allowing it all to be there.
Mm,
I used to think that if I wasn't happy or I didn't feel good all the time, there was something wrong. And also, I think having OCD and probably having quite a difficult relationships over the years, my mind, I think, looks for danger. That's how
okay.
OCD works. It's like the doubting disease. It's kind of like it looks for danger. It's looking for risk. So, the mind's in flight or fight right mode, isn't it? And I think that's what the mind kind of does for me. It's like it's scanning for danger. And I think that's probably from being on high alert for most of my life. And that is so much better for me now. Like, I feel like I'm able to see life for what it is and don't need to always be on high alert. I can be okay, but also I don't always need to be ecstatic and excited and happy all the time. As I'm getting older, I need quiet. I need time to myself,
Same. Yeah.
and I'm an extrovert completely, but I relish those moments as well. It's really important. So yeah, I think happiness for me is that it doesn't need to be super shiny and always a certain way. It's like allowing it all to be there, because when you do, you then really appreciate the true moments of happiness, don't you?
Yeah.
And success, that's a really, really interesting one. So I have a really good day job. I earn a good salary.
Mm,
I've got, I'm very fortunate in that regard, but it's not my passion.
mm,
So I've chased success and financial success and that kind of stuff. And there's something missing. And for me, that's my creative work.
yeah.
And you could say, well, I have that because I get to do this and then do the day job. And that's cool. That's completely true. But I've chased that thing. I thought if I got the next corporate job or the next success or the next promotion or whatever, it would mean more. And I think it doesn't as much because it's not truly what I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
Whereas I make no money for my creativity. I put money into it.
Mm,
It's a success because I love it. And I'm learning to reframe that as well, because I was really obsessed with how many downloads I have of the podcast and who was listening to it. And also, like, I'm not ashamed to say this, I have like envy of people as well on socials. So you see someone getting more promotion on their podcast, or you see someone getting like an opportunity that maybe you'd have liked or whatever. And I'm like, how did that happen for them? And
mm,
you can't help but feel envious sometimes. But what I'm trying to do is stay in my lane and know that my hard work is worth it and it's
yes.
paying off.
Yeah.
Um, and that probably sounds really ungrateful as well, because like, I've just released a book and I've got a podcast and that kind of stuff. And, I'm so proud of all of that stuff, but it's work. I've worked for all of that.
Yeah.
So when you do see other people getting loads of opportunities, or that maybe they've been able to get on that podcast to promote that, or they've been able to have that opportunity to speak, or something's kind of happened, you can't help but think, well, I really want to do that. And
Yeah.
why is no one knocking on my door? So you start to feel a little bit kind of envious. But yeah, I'm kind of at the point now where I'm like, the very fact that I have a podcast and that I've released a book, if it sells 10 copies and 10 people get something from it,
Yeah.
job done. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll make money from it. I have no idea. But that was never the driver for writing it. It was just
Yeah.
that I really wanted to create something that I was passionate about. And I do sincerely mean that. Like, I never thought, oh my God, I need to have a goal of selling this many books to earn money or something. It's just like, you know, that's a privilege, isn't it? If that happens.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like I'm flipping around both really. Happiness is about everything being there, and success is kind of, yeah, I guess realizing that it's about doing the things that really make you happy,
Yeah.
but also understanding that you need to do it because of the love, not because of what you're going to get from it.
Yeah. Hard relate on so much of what you just said as
Okay.
someone that throws myself out there. And I was
Mm.
chatting to so a couple of people like this, but also Shar Bailey about throwing enough shit at the wall and seeing what lands, like really
Yeah.
kind of grabbing those opportunities and trying different things because I love the variety. But yeah, it can feel like a hard slog sometimes. And I think
Mm.
when you do compare and you might get a little bit envious and even a little bit jealous at times. All of that is natural, but keep
Mm.
on doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, this is it. And things are happening. So
yeah,
it's like, it's cool.
yeah,
I'm grateful. And even I'm doing my day job, you know, it may not be my passion, but I don't loathe it. I'm not,
yeah,
you know, there are people doing jobs out there that are hard and get paid hardly any money for it. Like, I'm privileged. Like,
yeah,
I have to appreciate that and give myself a pinch and, and think, well, you're doing all right. So yeah, I
yeah.
think it's just being aware of all that kind of stuff, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it sounds like your day job led you to quite a lot of what you're doing now. So
Completely.
there's
None of
that.
it's
Yes.
wasted. None of it's
Same for
wasted.
me. Same for me in moving into ERG work. It brought me into DEI, which brought me
Mm,
to who I am now actually, and so
yeah.
much about how I show up in the world. Um, Next question is my final question for this segment and very much ties in with what we've just been speaking
Okay.
about. Looking back so far, what are you most proud of to date?
Oh God.
And you're allowed to say more than one thing because there's a lot.
I think I'm really proud of where I am right now in my life. And through everything, I think writing the book has really done that for me, especially dealing with loss and dealing with difficult situations in my 20s and then over recent years. To be sitting here now, um, yeah, I like myself. I didn't like myself then. And it makes me a little bit emotional because it's like I feel really proud and really happy to be here. And I'm having a lovely time. So it's like, life feels good. And yeah, I think that's probably what I'm most proud of. And yeah, where I am right today. Um, and of course, there's so many other things that I'm proud of as well. But there was a time when I really, really didn't like who I was. And I think I've showed up for myself. So I'm really proud of that. Yeah.
The House of Happiness is London's ultimate sober clubbing extravaganza. We're led and delivered but created for all, whether teetotal, sober curious, or just taking a booze snooze. We love a day raid, and on a Saturday afternoon you can expect banging house tunes, DJs on decks, dancers on podiums, and a fully stocked alcohol-free bar. Flamboyant, bold, with a glitter station to boot. We're all about safe, inclusive fun, and we even have a pre-meet so that you can make new sober buddies before you hit the dance floor. Grab your tickets from Instagram now at House of Happiness Official, and we'll see you on the dance floor. Are you ready for some quickfire questions?
Yes, I am.
What album, book, or movie has had a lasting impact on you?
There's so many. So the album that's meant a lot is Melanie C's self-titled album that's released in
Okay.
2020. It was released during COVID. It was a shit show. It had so many bangers on it, and it had so many songs on it with lyrics, which is just exactly how I was feeling, or how I would didn't even know I would start to feel. And I feel like every song on there, it speaks to like everything that's happened over recent years. Like every time something's happened, it's been exactly what I wanted to say. And one of the songs is called "Who I Am," and I have that tattooed on my wrist.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, so Melanie C's 2020 self-titled album, I'd highly recommend it. And it was her highest charting album in like 20 years or something.
Really, I was obsessed with the first album, Northern Star.
Northern
Like,
Star. Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
obsessed with
But
it.
that Melanie C was album number 8. People were like, she has 8 albums. I'm like, yeah,
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 yeah.
some of them are really good. I was convinced you were going to say Tina Turner.
I mean, that will always be, yeah, like the front affair out. There's Tina's just huge, but that album will always be a special one
Yeah,
for me. I think it started the change of what was to come, so
that's
it kind of marks a
beautiful.
point. Yeah,
Yeah, that's beautiful and takes you back to little Andrew. I love that.
yeah.
Yeah. What's a saying you live by and one that you'd put in the bin?
Oh my god, these questions are really good. A saying I live by is, I think, just like, it sounds really cliche, but just try and be kind and decent to
Mm,
people.
yeah.
I just like be open minded and try and, do you know what? Try. I always give everyone a chance. That's to my detriment sometimes because I'm
Mm,
too open. But I try and I think there's something you can take from everyone. So that's probably something I do live by.
yeah.
And by take, I don't mean to like extract and take something from
Yeah.
them, but like learn or relate to or something. One I put in the bin is that um, you have to do something because you're related, or that's you know
Oh,
all
yes.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like the anything that has obligation attached to it,
Hmm.
fuck right off.
Yeah. It's that you said it earlier. It's the blood thicker the water
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
It's the whole legacy friends thing. It's
yeah.
no, doesn't need.
Sometimes it's just you have to just move on. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not just gonna do it because I have to. It's like if it
Yeah.
doesn't serve me, no, not at
Yeah.
40.
Yeah, and there's a bit of rhetoric going on around that word. If something doesn't serve me, and some people really hate that phrase, and it's
Mm,
just like it's not about the serving thing. It's not about just what you can get out of something. It's
no.
about how does this enrich my life? That's not to say that relationships can't be tough, but it really is around does this enrich my existence? If not,
Mm,
why am I pursuing it?
yeah. But I think when you're younger, you well, I certainly did. You just kind of accept them all, don't you? And you
Yeah,
just kind of go, oh, well, they're a friend or whatever. And then
yeah.
as you get older, you're like, this is a bit rubbish.
Are
Like,
they? Are they though?
I don't feel good about this.
Yeah,
And then when you do break away from some friends, and then you feel nothing, you're like, well, clearly this was like hanging on by a thread.
yeah,
Like, there's so many situations where that's happened, and I'm like, okay, well, I've been able to move on. I'm not bereft by this experience. Clearly, this needed to happen. So,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. Again, it's just you need to normalize it.
mm.
What's been the best adventure of your life so far?
My creative adventure, podcast and writing, and in particular, like the book, like I love the podcast so much, but like the book, like doing that has just been something that I never thought I would do. So that's been such a ride. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, and it hasn't finished. So it feels like a really amazing. It's probably the I am so proud of my creative work. It's like out of everything that I've ever achieved in my career, my podcast and book are just like they're my babies. I love them and I feel really, really proud of them. So yeah, that's been an amazing adventure so far.
yeah. I can't wait to see what the response continues to be like for the book for a long time to come. What three words would you use to describe you and your origin story?
That's a really tough one. What
Hmm.
3 words would I use to describe me and my origin story? Yeah, I think unapologetic, proud, and I think love. I love a lot. I love hard.
Yeah,
Does those words work? Does that answer the
they
question?
work for you.
Yeah,
They certainly work for you.
I love hard, and I do, and I feel such affection for people, my friends, my Theo, people around me. Yeah, we need love in our lives. It's important.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially right now, right?
Mm,
Not just because of what's going on for us as a community, for the LGBTQ plus community and other marginalized groups. But as a society, life is
it's
relentless.
tough. Yeah.
Yeah,
Everyone needs an arm around them. Just, hug your friends, ask people how they are,
yeah,
make time for people, have that extra cup of coffee if you've got 5 more minutes, just
yeah,
important stuff. Yeah.
absolutely. Really simple, but so important.
Mm,
Let's fast forward a little bit. What
okay.
exciting things do you have coming up? I had a
Well,
sneak peek, peeps, which we can't share, but I'm feeling very, very privileged in that sense.
yeah, so I've got a couple more. So we're obviously recording this in June.
Mhm.
So I've got a few more book events coming up, which is really
Okay.
exciting in the next month or so, and some speaking stuff that I'm doing. I've started recording season 6 of Queer I Am. So I started that yesterday. So I've got interviews with about 10 authors over the next 3 weeks. I'm going to be exhausted every weekend, but it's going to be fab. And then a few more booky things later in the year, which we talked about, which is very exciting. And then I'm going to start writing again as well. I've already got a bit of a proposal together for another book. So I'm going to start writing, I think, in the summer. Oh, and there's one more thing as well. I'm going to do another qualification.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to do a PR qualification, I think,
Cool.
because I have hustled in this world of creativity for the last 3 years. And I think I've built some quite good PR skills. So I would like to formalize that, and then maybe I
Okay.
will do something with that as well as part of my creative endeavors. Who knows? We'll see. But yeah, there's something I'm kind of cooking in the background.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see
So I'll be
it.
busy basically.
Busy, yeah, yeah, busy. Yeah, life is busy. Excited about Pride season?
I am. Yeah, I am. I think Pride is so like Pride Month, for example. We're in Pride Month now. We're recording this. I think I put a post out the other day about, happy Pride, but I think it's really important during that time to acknowledge kind of what's going on as well.
Mm,
But for me, Pride Month this month was about acknowledging that, but also celebrating us as a community. There's so much to celebrate in our
yeah,
community. And I feel like, the kind of rhetoric that's out there at the moment and the kind of all the stuff that's happening, which is just awful, is that we have to keep speaking about it.
yeah,
Um, but we need to find a way of all coming together and celebrating who we are and celebrating our people as well. I really wanted to celebrate all the people around me that lift me up and the allies, the people that I know in my community. And I think that's really important as well to focus on that if we can. But I think the other conversations are equally important. We've got to keep those going. Um, and then the big Pride season, I guess, with all the big festivals and events and all that kind of stuff, I've got, I do enjoy it. Um, I'll definitely be going to see the Brighton Parade because that's always lovely to
so good.
see. In terms of what it looks like and what I'll be doing over that weekend, I'm not entirely sure at the moment. But we've got the biggies this year. We've got Mariah Carey here, haven't we? So
Yeah, that's crazy.
I don't know. I don't know what to do.
I'd rather see a ropey old drag queen though, like just for fun. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Last year we had a really, really quiet one. And I met with friends on the beach and we had a picnic and that was lovely. So I think pride is what you make it, isn't it?
yeah, for sure.
But I think it's
Yeah,
important to most important thing is to keep the conversations going, get everyone together and
yeah,
celebrate your people. I think that's really
yeah.
important.
Absolutely. It's beyond the glitter and rainbows, right? It needs to be about the community right now. So
Yeah, and there's room for all of that too. That's really important. Like
yeah, well, we
everyone
need to
deserves to,
celebrate.
yeah,
Yes.
celebrate
Yeah,
ourselves and
yeah,
unapologetically. So I think
yeah,
it's all there. It can't just
yeah.
be one thing.
Leads me very nicely into the next question. What brings you joy?
My people, Theo, my friends, my family that I'm in touch with, Brighton, my creativity, my life really, just where I am right now. I feel like yeah, there's so much to be grateful for. So there's so much joy in my life. So yeah, I think all of those things.
Nice.
Yeah.
My final question to bring this amazing conversation to a close is
Mm.
this. What words of encouragement or wisdom do you have for anyone out there to help them get to wherever they're going?
I think it takes time, but I think it's really important when the time is right to really face who you are and walk towards that person and yeah, find a way of accepting, celebrating, loving, becoming that person's friend. And I really believe that when we are authentically ourselves and when the time is right and we can get there, the world can open up for us because we're not filtering, we're not hiding, we're not masking and exhausting ourselves. So we use all of that energy to kind of open up and be who we are. And the word I'm playing with a lot at the moment is superpower. And I really do think that queerness is a superpower. I feel like it's this gift that for so long I shunned or ignored. And when I've tapped into it, my best life is being lived. So I think it's an incredible gift to have.
Yes, boom, absolutely.
So that's probably what I would say.
Yeah. Andrew, thank you so much for
Thank you.
sharing this time with me. I loved learning all about little Andrew. And all about you. And just this book is brilliant, and the way you continue again to amplify queer voices and to shine a spotlight on people is really beautiful. And yeah, like I really kind of cannot wait to see everything that comes off the back of this book and whatever's next. But very, very grateful to be in your sphere and to know you.
Thank you. And thank you for interviewing me and for allowing me to be on the podcast. And congratulations on everything you're doing as well. You're smashing it. And again, we've all got to keep championing each other.
Yeah.
And that's what I see on your socials. You show up for a lot of people and you're always plugging someone or celebrating someone. And I think that's an amazing quality. So thank you for doing that for me.
Lots of mutual love right here. Thank you
Thank
so much. See you soon. I just want to take a moment to thank Andrew for being such a wonderful guest on Pause and Rewind, but also just for the way that he champions other people so wonderfully. He has for me since last year, since we met, and his enthusiasm and passion for people really comes through. And as Andrew says, I love a lot, I love hard, and that's so evident in his work, in his creative output, and what he throws out there into the world with Queer I Am, the podcast, and his new book, Do You Believe in Life After Loss, which I strongly encourage you to read. There is something in there for everyone through all of the different stories and examples of loss. And even though our experiences are unique, there's so much commonality in the feelings that are evoked through this book. So do go grab yourself a copy. Ideally from your local queer independent retailer, please. The three words that Andrew uses to describe his origin story: unapologetic, proud, and love. Again, love being a kind of a common thread. And that unapologetic and proud, Andrew's proudness to be queer, believing his queerness is a superpower. I love the fact that he focuses on that. I love the fact that he's so proud of that and himself as well. And it was really interesting to hear him reflecting on the podcast and that coming about where he is now, or where he's been recently over the last 5 years, because that wasn't accessible in his 20s, and yeah, same for me. Like it's taken me a while to find my voice, and some of us it's always there, but some of us we get there, and but what's important is how we use it to show our creativity and get self-satisfaction, but also how we show up for others, how we show up for the world. So, Andrew, thank you so much again for being in my world. I'm so happy to be part of yours. Please do like, subscribe, share. Thank you for listening. Let's take these conversations where they need to be. These stories deserve to be heard, seen, and celebrated. Stay tuned for more amazing guests on Pause and Rewind. Just 3 more episodes of this season. Cheers!